pretty horrible weather last night. But we are back on the Now Morning Show. Thank you so much for staying with us this morning. I saw TNTech just put out a media release. We'll chat about that before we wrap the show this morning. But right now, we're talking about conflict resolution. And there are several ways that we can approach it. But the good folks at Act to Change TT, they've decided they're going to go with the route of posters. And I want to welcome this morning the co-founder of Act to Change, Samantha Jumana. She joins us via Zoom. Good morning, Samantha.
Hi, morning. Thank you
Thank you
for
so much.
having me.
Not a problem at all. So, I firstly, I'm interested in what inspired you and the team to be able to say we're gonna address this particular issue of conflict resolution.
Yeah, so the initial project, this one, well, this was kind of a follow-up or part two to another one. The initial project was born out from another poster, which was focusing on putting together 120 or so missing and murdered women and children of TNT that we developed and we circulated online last year at the time when Andrea Barth and Ashanti Riley were murdered. And that is how Act to Change TNT came about at that time. That poster series was to highlight with the names and the faces of the victims, the injustices that we keep seeing occurring over several years. And once we completed that, then we wanted to focus our efforts on a more deliberate message that calls for action. And being a group of individuals who believe that the cycle of violence that plagues our country every day can't be broken unless we as a society change the way that we want to deal with conflict, we decided that focusing on education of morals and values and character building, more specifically related to violence and conflict resolution, is the path that we wanted to take. So we wanted these posters to be a springboard of which dialogue can start between kids, teachers, school management, and parents, and serve as a reminder for that dialogue to continue around the importance of virtues education in the fight against violence, dishonesty, and corruption.
And you'll have been able to get partnerships in terms of people like the Ministry of Education to be able to agree to put up these posters in various schools across the country. Yeah.
Yes, so we were fortunate enough to get approval from the Ministry of Education for these posters. And I would like to take that as an opportunity to also thank a couple other people who really brought this initiative to life. One being Jared Williams, who also had sparked the idea of that missing, murdered women and children poster, and Nasa Khan, who was with us every step of the way in bringing this to life. And this also could not have been done without the creators of the poster itself, which goes to Wholehearted School Counseling, which is an organization based in the US.
All right. So this is a lot of collaboration happening, and this is fantastic work because I think it's important for us to come together. And everybody complains about the challenges that we face, but there are very few people presenting solutions. I think this is definitely one of the solutions. Education is always a great solution. But tell me some of the messages that you have on the posters.
Yeah, so some of the messages we have on the poster. So it's a tile. So it's a series of about, I think, yeah, it's 12 tiles. And each one of them depicts a child or two children, or even a couple of adults in a couple of the tiles. And something is going on, whether it's that child wants the other one's toy or they can't seem to come to a decision about something. So the idea is that we would depict these conflicts that would happen between children or between a child and a parent or an adult or a teacher. And, they'll have little messaging saying, think about what the other person would want, or if you're angry, just walk away, or if you want to decide something and you're having a disagreement, flip a coin, something like that. That I think that we as a society need to just make these small changes in the way that children resolve conflict. I mean, we see it with the school violence, and this is something that happens at a really early age. Um, and if you don't mind, I'd like to just give an example of
Please
something
do.
really small that can make a big difference early on. So there is this parable about this mother and a child, and they're in the kitchen, and somebody knocks on the door, the front door, and the mom says to the child, "Okay, can you go answer the door, but tell them that I'm not home." So when the child goes to answer the door, he or she opens the door and says, "My mommy told me to tell you that she's not home." So this just goes to show that at a very young age, we are innocent and we take things to be as honest as they come. And children don't really understand that the mum was telling the child to lie. And a
Mm.
mum may not even think that that is something wrong to do. It innocently, she just didn't want to talk to the person. But it's those small things that we need to think about in instilling morals and values.
And that's where my next question was going, because when you put up these posters and you have these fantastic examples of how to treat with conflict resolution, but then we look around in society, the same society that the child has to live in, has to walk around in, has to be when they're not in school, they in society, and we see that some of the adults still don't understand how to resolve their conflicts without using violence or without getting super angry and vexed and cussing down the place. Like, we
Yeah.
keep seeing those examples. So how do we mitigate that for the children?
Yeah, and that just kind of goes to the next point, being that these posters are not, yes, the primary audience are the children, the 7, the 6, the 5-year-olds, 8-year-olds in primary schools, but these posters also should be a reminder to parents that, this is the way that I should be acting. I shouldn't be going and cussing and saying this and that and thinking about only what I want, but also thinking about what the other person wants, or maybe where that person is coming from. And that's a cycle, as you just depicted. So, children don't live in a bubble at school. A lot of the learning happens at school, but it also happens within the home. And so these posters are supposed to serve as a reminder or a tool where dialogue can happen between parents, between teachers and children and parents, and that's how we want to help break this cycle of
Yeah.
violence and conflict.
Because I think if we able to start that dialogue, then parents might be able to do some self-reflection in terms of what they say to their child. If a child comes and asks you directly, how do I resolve a problem that I'm having with X? And you realize, you might realize as a parent, you're gonna be like, well, maybe I shouldn't tell you how I have done that in the past. Maybe I should tell you what's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Because also as parents, you learn from the mistakes you might have made earlier on in your life as well. But do you think that our teachers and our parents are equipped to deal with some of these conflicts that are coming up, especially in the age of technology, where we have people trolling and people who just doing things that parents may not have had to deal with in their youth?
For sure. And that also is maybe a way for me to just talk quickly about how we would want to bring this to even secondary schools, because we understand that cyberbullying, as you were mentioning with technology, is very prevalent. And there was actually an interview that was done recently in Trinidad, and they were interviewing children, and they're saying that a lot of these conflicts have to do with bullying and cyberbullying. And I don't think teachers are equipped right now because they are so overwhelmed with many other problems that are more pressing than not disciplining, but teaching children, the right way to go about dealing with a conflict. They see that as probably something that parents also need to step in and be more involved with. And they are very overwhelmed with many other issues that they have to face. And so we just want this poster to help and be a tool for them to use that, and just get them to think about during the day. It only takes 2, 3, 5 minutes of the day to point out something that they saw in the news or something
Yeah.
that happened on the playground, and use that example with the children in 5 minutes of the day to say, hey, how could we have gone about solving this issue better? Let's look at the poster. What would be something that you think would be the best way to solve that instead of hitting somebody or using cuss words, you know?
And you know what? I think that's the perfect place that we can leave it for this morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Samantha, and congratulations on this initiative. I know that you've been making waves, and I know it will continue to, and I hope it has the desired impact.
We hope so too, and thanks so much for giving us this opportunity to chat.
Not a problem. Take care. Enjoy your day.
Thanks, you too.
All right. That's Samantha Juman joining us there virtually and sharing some information about the conflict resolution posters that they have going on right now. That's Act to Change TT.